Hey everybody, a loop is when a worksheet meets a scavenger hunt. They're really easy to create. What you do is you take a worksheet, put a question at the bottom of one page and put the answer to it at the top of the next page with the following question at the bottom of that page. And the very last question, the answer to it goes at the top of your very first page. Loops are great because they incorporate movement. They get students talking to each other about the subject. Students are much more likely to ask how and why from a peer rather than perhaps in front of the class. In my classroom, it gives students the opportunity to have some freedom and pick their partners. Most of them pick wisely. In the event that some of them don't pick wisely, then they automatically get a third partner, which is me. And really, students can end up teaching each other. Sometimes they're stronger than their partner. However, there's many times where the weaker partner can end up illuminating something that the stronger partner did not understand.
All right, so we did a vocab sort in Spanish to start our unit on food and exercise. So to start off our vocabulary, I had them in groups brainstorm words having to do with different foods as well as things related to exercise. So they had to come up with 24 words total. So they did that in groups, and since this was for Spanish, they had to think of the words and then use our online dictionary to find out what they were in Spanish. And so I had them on the sheet of paper in little squares write the Spanish of the words without the English. So they did that, and then once they were finished, all the groups were finished, I had them change words with a different group, and then they had to cut the words apart into the little slips of paper, and then they had to create groups or categories for the words that they received on the paper. So they were having to see the Spanish of the words, which they were words, new words, they were having to look them up. So again, they were getting exposed to maybe some of the same words they had come up with or some different words, and then having to find connections between the different terms that were on the paper. And they were doing that as a group to kind of figure out what the words were and then look for those connections that could either have to do with the words themselves or what they mean or how they would be used. So it was a good activity for the kids just to kind of start brainstorming, thinking of different things they might want to know how to say or words that they don't know, and then having to find those connections to kind of figure out what are the bigger topics or the bigger umbrellas of the things that the different groups came up with that the words were related to. And just so as we move forward, kind of those bigger categories kind of became the focus of the unit and the vocabulary that we used and that the kids were assessed over later.
So I used the Flipgrid app and website as a strategy to help my chemistry kids with retention on a recent lab that they performed. I did it for both my honors and my AP classes. They were individually responsible for turning in data and any graphs, as well as a background, which is what I have them write at the beginning of a lab to describe information that they need to know in order to perform the lab. And then we used Flipgrid as a way to convey their findings from the lab, their conclusion, and their error analysis. I used it on purpose to help. I have a few English language learners that are having difficulty expressing and communicating their knowledge through writing. And so I was hoping that by using a verbal communication, it might be a little bit better assessment of their actual learning and understanding of the concepts. And I was also hoping to get a little bit more collaboration instead of the usual individual lab reports that I have that kiddos do. And it turned out pretty great. Since they're limited to 1.5 minutes in their video presentation on Flipgrid, they had to be really concise and thoughtful and prepared in focusing on what they really thought was important about the lab and any new information that they learned that I hadn't already presented to them. And the kids really actually enjoyed doing it, and I feel like I got a better understanding of their understanding by watching them communicate. And I also got to see a lot of body language and insights into how well their lab group worked together just by how they presented the information. I think this would be a great format for LOTE, for history, for math, for English. It would be a great way for the kids to show maybe what they learned from a Socratic seminar. Maybe if there was something that they were dying to say during the Socratic but didn't get a chance, they have a minute and a half there to say it. Or if it's something that they realized or came to a conclusion after thinking about the Socratic seminar and discussion that they were part of. Some kids, it takes them a while to process the information. They could always come back and do a reflection on what they had learned.
Well, I use the 5-finger review for lots of different quick reviews. So sometimes if I want a super duper less than a couple of minutes review, I will say I want you guys to give me 5 things that you learned today from our assignment, and I'll use my 5 fingers, and so I'll list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as they yell them out. Sometimes I have them do this at their table, where they are going to discuss with each other the 5 things that they learned from a particular activity. Sometimes I want it as an exit ticket, so I will give them a little handprint like this, and then they will write on the hand the 5 different things that they learned, and I call it Give Me 5. It's beneficial because it's a real quick review of what we've done. It's also beneficial to me so I can see what they've picked up on. I can also see any misconceptions they may have had. I've also done it where I've said list 5 things that you want more information on or that you didn't understand, and so then that gives me some more feedback on something we might need to review the next day.